Howdy, welcome to my channel. Today we are participating in the What Inkspires You hop. The purpose of this hop is to share our stories of how we first came to card making or scrapbooking. It is also to help with the launch of Create and Inkspire, which is an online publication for card makers. So for me, card making, it actually came out of necessity because my first card was my wedding invitation. I should have a picture to show you of what my wedding invitation looks like. So I got married back in 2002. And back then, die cutting is not the same as it is now. Back then, if you wanted to use a die cut on a card, you would have to go to the scrapbook store and you would have to rent time to use the machine. Whereas today, you don't have to do that. Die cut machines aren't that expensive. I'm not saying that they don't have an expense, but compared to the prices they were back then, only schools and scrapbook stores were the only places that you could find die cut machines. Now, you can find them in various sizes and colors, and you can travel with them. That was not a thing back then. Back then, they were big, bulky machines. The way I came about doing my first card was this. I got really lucky. My husband's family, his mom and dad, owned a scrapbook store at the time, which was like, I didn't even know what a scrapbook store was back then. I hadn't made a card yet. I didn't know what die cutting was. I was scared to death to emboss because my mother-in-law was like, oh, we could emboss on your envelopes. And I'm like, no, because I was terrified to use an embossing gun, a heat embossing gun. Now, I do that stuff all the time. I die cut at home without having to rent time from anybody. I just have to find the time at home to do it. Die cuts are super thin now. You can still find some thicker die cuts, but pretty much everybody's trying to go the route of making thinner die cuts. So I'm going to make a card that is inspired by my wedding invitation. And by that I mean it's gonna have elements of what was in my wedding invitation. Like, I'm gonna die cut a heart, and I'm gonna have some cranberry-ish looking colors, and I'll have green in there. I'm not gonna put ribbon. I am more of a clean and simple kind of girl. And for today's card, we are going to do some alcohol ink techniques. We're gonna do it on photo paper. We are gonna have vellum as part of the card. So we had vellum on my wedding invitation, and we're gonna have some words, we're gonna die cut a sentiment. We're gonna die cut the sentiment, I love you. First, we're going to back the vellum and the black cardstock and the evergreen cardstock with some scrapbook adhesive, which this was even a dream back then. You didn't get to buy just sheets of scrapbook adhesive. Back then, if you wanted like to do something similar to what we're doing today, you had to use a Xyron because they didn't have any other way to do it. Nowadays, if you don't want to use a Xyron, you can totally just grab a sheet of scrapbook adhesive and you can just stick your paper on there yourself. You don't have to use any cartridges to run your Xyron machine. Now, I still love my Xyron machine, but that's because I'm old school. Like, I don't know what card makers are grabbing nowadays. Because also, there wasn't a MISTI. You basically had to use acrylic blocks. Otherwise, there was only wood blocks. What was a thing was magazines. You could go to the grocery store and find scrapbook magazines. You can't do that anymore. I miss those days. That's how you found out about the latest and greatest stuff, unless you had access to a computer and the internet. So to illustrate just how new things are today versus how they were back then, we're going to use my evolution. I actually usually just use this for when I travel rather than when I create on a video. I think this helps to illustrate just how new and modern things are versus back then. Back then, you couldn't get a die cut machine that you could pack up really small. That wasn't a thing. Even when die cut machines started to come in and you could get them smaller and use them at home. So we have now die cut all of the elements that are going to be on the front of my card. I want to say back then, Yupo paper wasn't really something that people had really heard a lot about. We'd heard about photo paper and cardstock and vellum, but Yupo paper, it was around because it's a synthetic paper, and I don't recall what they actually used it for, but it was still around. It just wasn't something that you used in the craft room. Well, I don't want to mess up my bandages. I'm going to stick some gloves on. So now we're going to take our red pepper ink and spray our alcohol over the ink, and it's going to help us make a really pretty image. We're gonna bring in some other colors. Adirondacks are the ones that were around the longest. Bria Reese are new, as are the T-Rex. But I like them all. If I forget to tell you the names of the ink colors, they will be included in the description box below. But so far we've played with 2 Tim Holtz inks, which are Red Pepper and Poppy Field. We're using T-Rex, which is Dragon Fruit Pink. The good thing about the T-Rex inks is that they come as a group, as a bundle of colors. Now we're going to bring in the Pinata Gold, and we're going to use the pipette to help us out. We're just going to scatter that around. Then you can put that, then we can put that aside. And let's see if we can just blow on it, or if we need to grab some. No, we can just blow on it. I think there's enough alcohol on the Yupo paper right now so that we can just blow on it. And I like to use freezer paper to work on when I'm working on this stuff, because it helps keep my work surface clean. So once the alcohol is dry, which shouldn't take long at all, we're going to stick this card panel on top of our card base, and then we're going to bring back the die cut pieces that we worked on. So I have a question for y'all. What was the first card you ever made? Was it a wedding invitation like myself? Was it a Christmas card, a birthday card? Did you go to a home party for Stampin' Up or Close to My Heart? Also, how long have you been creating cards? So we are going to place our heart in the center, much like it was on my first card. And we are going to use die cuts and place them on top of the heart. I was thinking we could use green, but looking at it now, it just doesn't really go. So we're not going to use the green. But like I said, we're changing it up from what the original card looked like anyways. So we're just going to use our tool-in-one to take the adhesive backing off of our heart. And we are going to bring in our T-square to help us place our heart in there so that it doesn't just look janky. So you can still see the alcohol ink through the vellum, much like you could see my husband in my picture behind the vellum in the wedding invitation. And we're going to remove our freezer paper. Now we're going to place our love sentiment die cut over this. And I don't have the word I, but I do have the word you die cut as well in black. Did that beforehand. So let me see if I can find it. These are actually how I keep my dies, not that I don't keep them on those sheets, but when I keep them on those sheets, I then keep them inside of these plastic bags. I'll link that in the description box below as well if you're interested in them. They are not the Avery ones. I did use the Avery ones for a while, but I just have so many dies, and I'm a big die cut fan, so they were just accumulating, and I was like, well, there's got to be a cheaper way to get these bags. So I found one, and that's what I'm going to link in the description box below. Also, you get it like 100 of them for the same price. The Avery bags, you get like 25. I'm like, that seems ridiculous. But I mean, that might just be me. So I think our card is going to be complete. Yeah, that looks really nice. So we're just going to use some Darice permanent glue. I don't know if you've heard or not, but Darice, which is owned by Michaels, well, they're shutting that down. I think they're shutting it down later this year. I think because of all that's, I don't think people are shopping as much right now, which is why I think they're doing that, so that they can keep Michaels afloat. But yeah, closed down Darice, which I think is sad because I love their die cuts and I love their adhesive. And if you have been paper crafting for a while and you remember those old school embossing folders that Cuttlebug used to make, you can get a lot of those styles from Darice now. So if you like Darice's stuff, or if you're eyeing something that's from Darice, I would recommend buying it now because Michaels is closing them, so they won't be around anymore. I still kind of want to put a green element in there because there was a green element in our wedding invitation. So we're gonna grab some dewdrops and use those. So how are we gonna do that? We are going to grab our jewel picker and some adhesive. We're going to use liquid glass. You can use any adhesive you like. I just happen to have that handy. So dewdrops come in a couple of different sizes and shapes, all in the same bottle. I think that looks rather nice. And it kind of mimics the fact that it was, well, it was a burgundy, but I don't have any real burgundy colors of alcohol ink. So that's why we went for a variation of reds. So there's our card. I hope y'all stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, and stay crafty. If you like what you saw, please click the like button. If you would like to tell me what inspires you to create, or what the first card you ever made was, or if you want to see me use some recyclable materials, leave that in the comment box below. If you would like to see further videos from me, please click the subscribe button. Okay. Bye.